Judge Phyllis Collins and criminal defense attorney Michael Bixon. Hey guys.
Good morning.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to throw out to you, Phyllis, do we believe Todd Mullis so far?
I think he was very believable. I think that he gave a good explanation for the time, that there wasn't much time for him to be able to commit this crime, and also good explanation of the internet searches. So
Really?
far, so good, but yeah, I'm buying it so far, but you know, big day today with cross-examination.
Michael?
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, not just the content of what he said, but how he said it and the way that he presents himself on the stand, I think is excellent for the defense. I think how he's going to stand up to cross is a very different story, but so far I thought that he did a great job. I think he seems very believable.
Very interesting. I'm going to reserve my comments for later. Okay, so, these internet searches, damning, right? They go as far back as December 2017, all the way through August 2018. Let's listen to Todd Mullis on the stand and what he said when he was confronted by those internet searches regarding cheating women.
You were present when Deputy Hemseth testified that about certain searches about cheating spouses or cheating wives, that kind of thing. Did you do those searches?
No, I did not.
Did you know it? Do you know who did?
I have no idea who looked that up.
Okay, so here's my thought about Todd Mullis and his, I guess, performance, so to speak, on direct. I thought he was a very sympathetic witness. However, I thought that he painted himself a little too perfect with regards to the marriage. Yes, Amy was the one that was cheating, but I thought that if he would have just been more transparent with his thoughts and feelings about her cheating, yes, I was angry. Yes, I was looking at internet searches about the traits or characteristics of a cheating woman. I never really fully restored my trust in my wife. Had he just said that, that still would have been okay for him to go on the stand and say, despite those feelings, I never would have resorted to killing her. The fact that he kind of seemed aloof about it, the fact that he seemed like he was just, hey, I gave my wife freedom. I never checked on her, never did this, that, and the other. It would have been okay. I mean, we had those text messages between him and Terry, his wife, Amy's good friend, where he was asking Terry, hey, do you think she's acting weird? So it wouldn't have been so far-fetched that he would have made internet searches wanting to see what a cheating woman is like, even though he's experienced it the first time. But what did you think about him saying, I didn't do those internet searches, I don't know who did? Phyllis?
I think you're right, and I think that's a common problem that witnesses have, is that they don't concede the things that aren't going to hurt them.
Yeah.
You know, they just won't admit to the things that are not going to hurt them and move on to the important stuff. But I think that it's possible that she could have searched on how to kill a cheating wife, because she was very paranoid. She had called all these people. She's calling people she hadn't seen in 5 years. She's calling people from her previous employer. She's clearly in a panic to try to convince people that it's not true, to try to make sure that he doesn't know. So maybe she's the one that put it in.
That could be so you think, Michael, that Phyllis is right when it comes to at least the searches about the characteristics of a cheating woman? Could Amy have done those searches?
I 100% agree. And it's funny because the first time I heard those searches, I said, that is terrible.
Yeah.
That looks horrible for the defense. But when I go through all of them, the more it looks like she was the one doing these searches and not him. Especially how to do a DNA test without the father knowing.
No, for sure.
That seems much more like what she's going to be searching than him. And I think a lot more of these are consistent with the character that we've seen more so from her than from him. I mean,
To cover her tracks.
yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm acting funny. Let me see what I need to do to act in the opposite.
Absolutely.
Right,
And
ways.
not just that, but I mean, look at the way that he's acted and his character so far, right? When he finds out that she's cheating, he contacts the wife. I mean, it's very subdued almost, the whole thing. There's no violent outbursts, no violent acts, nothing like that, right? This very he'll confront them about it, but it seems in a very, I guess, subdued sort of way, you know? And I think that these searches aren't so much in line with his character than from what we've seen with her.
Got it. Okay. Well, let's listen to what Todd had to say on the stand when confronted with other searches on the internet.
And you've had a chance to just at least skim through this or review this.
Yeah, I briefly looked it over.
Okay. I'd like to have you go back to the front, but page down using that number in the left-hand column. and go to 347. Have you found it?
Yes.
And what's the date there?
It's July 22nd, 2018.
And what is the search for?
Wedding dresses.
Did you do a search for wedding dresses that day?
No, I did not.
Have you ever searched for wedding dresses?
I have never searched for wedding dresses.
Okay.
Okay, so I could believe that. Why would Todd Mullis search for wedding dresses around July 22nd of 2018? What's interesting about that date is that the affair Amy had with Jerry Frazier turned physical right around the end of May. So it more than likely was her making these searches. Believable for the jury to at least take in the fact that she was the person that had access to the iPad as well, because it seemed at first that it was just his iPad and only his. But now we know that other people had access to it. In fact, she created the password, Phyllis, for her husband on this iPad.
Yeah, and this plays into the fatal attraction theory that maybe she was obsessed with Jerry, and Jerry didn't want to leave his wife and go off and have a new life with Amy. So it plays into that more. I mean, she's clearly, and I think there's been some testimony that she told friends he was going to leave his wife when I think the kids were grown or something like that. So I just think that plays into that theory.
Michael, what I wanted to hear from the defendant at least once during his testimony was him saying, you know, I regret working so much. That might have driven my wife to go see someone else, just to really humanize him, to really take accountability and not to, again, come off as the perfect spouse, right? I thought he had a missed opportunity there.
I agree. I mean, I think that there are always things that you wish you could have done or you could have done a little bit better on the stand. But overall, like I said before, I think he did great. You know, I think there are things that he could have improved on, but whenever you're going to put your client on the stand, whenever a defendant takes a stand, it's a very, very risky thing. And there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, even on direct. And considering everything that could go wrong, not that bad.
And don't you think they have similar personalities, the defense attorney and his client? So I think
calm,
that's kind
cool and
of
collected,
that's kind of playing out in how the testimony went.
But the prosecutor doesn't have that same
she
disposition.
Oh, no.
So we got to be mindful that, of course,
Yes.
Todd is going to do well on direct. He was given the questions in a very soft manner.
Yes.
We'll see how he's going to do on cross-examination this morning. All right, Court TV's latest podcast is available right now. Vinnie Politan and Seema Iyer take a closer look at the Rake murder trial and the challenges the defense faces explaining away those internet searches. You can listen to the latest episode on Stitcher or Apple and Google Podcasts, and you can always find it on CourtTV.com. Todd Mullis' cross-examination will begin in less than 30 minutes. We're going to have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we take a closer look at the Mullis' testimony about the day his wife died. You're watching Court TV Live. We'll be right back. Watching Court TV, I'm Yodi Tawalde. Todd Mullis says November 10th, 2018 started out like a normal day on the farm. On direct examination, Mullis said he, his wife, and their son Tristan were working in the hog barn when Todd says he noticed Amy wasn't feeling well.
At some point, did you notice anything about Amy that concerned you?
Yes.
What?
She got down a couple times and she would brace herself against the feeder. And she was kind of just like readjusting herself. And I think Tristan asked at first, she goes, "You okay, Mom?" Because he was closer to her. And she goes, I just feel dizzy. You know, I'm lightheaded. And then we asked her if she was okay. And she goes, you ain't, is there something we should be concerned about, you know? She goes, no, I'm fine.
My legal panel still with me, Judge Phyllis Collins and attorney Michael Bixon. All right, Michael, in that clip, you hear Todd Mullis talking about what he and Tristan observed of Amy on that morning, that she felt dizzy, she was lightheaded, uneasy on her feet. And that's what his defense attorney in his opening statements stated, that is why they thought that Amy, or at least Todd, thought Amy fell on the corn rake because she had been unsteady on her feet that morning. But no, 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 this was a murder. Do you think it was a mistake for the defense to concede that this was in fact a murder and not an accident because it limits their defense essentially?
So I think it does limit the defense. That much is clear. The question is whether or not they should have left that other alternative open. In some ways, you want to say yes, because you want to present as many theories as you can if you're the defense as to what could have happened. But they have to be reasonable theories.
Right.
And it becomes very hard to, one, even believe it, and two, present any type of proof or evidence that it was believable. I mean, the way that you have, I believe it was 4 up and 2 down as far as the pattern of the wounds, unless she got up and then fell back down on it again, it's very hard to believe it. And I think it's easier to sell it as a murder by someone else than it's likely to be some type of really freak accident.
But who? Who's that
Well,
someone else?
to be fair, not their job.
It's not their job, but we've got to think like jurors here, right? So, Phyllis, again, isn't it easier to raise doubt with the jury when you have the battle of the experts, when you have the state expert saying this was a homicide, then you have the defense put on an expert saying this was an accident, here's why, and letting the jury decide who they believe, rather than, okay, this was a homicide, and it wasn't Todd, it wasn't anybody else on the farm, it was confirmed that no one else was on the farm, it was ruled out that Jerry Frazier had an alibi, his wife had an alibi, so then who could it have been?
Well, I think they made the right choice here because, and I think they had the benefit of depositions and being prepared and knowing that what the forensic science was going to be, and that that was not going to be an adequate defense. So I think they made the right decision to go ahead and concede that. I think the biggest problem with the defense is, what's the opportunity that someone else had?
Right.
Yes, maybe Jerry had the motive to do it, maybe the fatal attraction motive, but did he have the opportunity? I think that's the biggest problem with the defense.
I agree. All right, let's go to a clip of Todd Mullis on the stand talking and describing about that moment he found his wife in the red shed.
What did you do?
I more or less just dove down by her. I put my head down. I was like, Amy. I was yelling at her, trying to get her attention. I didn't know what to think. I was just looking at her, and I picked her head up a little bit, and it was just nothing. It was just no response.
So what did you decide to do?
I just wanted to help her. I just wanted, let's go to the hospital. Is there something wrong? Right now, I just reacted.
Did you pick her up?
I started to pick her up. I went under her, like her armpits, and I was trying to lift her up, and that fork handle was jabbing in the toe out the caging. And then I realized, hey, this ain't gonna work. So I just set her down more or less a little bit in my arm. I just reached over, I pulled the fork out, I tossed it, and I got underneath of her, and I told Tristan, go get the truck, we gotta go.
Okay, Michael, this is the moment that Todd Mullis is describing for the jurors, his wife who was face down, who was stabbed to death by a corn rake. This is the moment that I was expecting him to either have his voice crack, a tear from his eye. It's hard to say what a normal reaction is, but it's been less than a year since his wife died. So I was expecting everything else to be sort of calm and cool, but in that moment where he's describing Amy, I was expecting a little more emotion to come from Todd.
You know, honestly, the way that I listened to it, I heard his voice break a little bit when he was talking about removing the corn rake from her back. You know, look, everyone reacts to something like this very differently. And we heard his teenage son take the stand, his son who found, you know, his mother's body, and he presented a fairly calm, collected, and cool, you know, explanation.
He also
as to what
was
had happened.
remotely testifying, so it would have been maybe different if he were in the courtroom.
But talking about finding your dead mother?
Yeah, no,
you know,
either way, yes.
I mean, I think that it's just sort of who they are as a family, you know? I mean, when you're doing a sort of a hard life like this as working a farm, you get a sort of different attitude as to, finding someone injured, because, you prepare for things like this and how to treat a wound or something like that. We heard about his son giving first aid to the mother. A lot of people wouldn't know how to do that. I think it's just a different type of culture, different type of life. But I did hear his voice break a little bit when he was talking about trying to remove the corn rake from her back.
Phyllis, your thoughts?
I think you're right. I think it would have been a little better had he been a little more emotional, but maybe it's just not in him. It's going to be interpreted one way or the other, right? Either that it's not his personality or that was responsible for the crime, and that's why he's not showing any emotion.
He's testifying about this moment, but he's also testifying in front of a gallery full of people that were family members of Amy and that cared about her, and you would think that he would be a little more affected in that way, but he didn't. Okay, so let's go to that moment where he talks about how Amy's body was discovered in the first place.
About how long did you and Tristan work there before you decided to do something different or something else developed?
We worked in there, I'd say a good hour, if not a little more. I mean, I didn't check the actual time, but I would estimate it was at least an hour or hour and 15 minutes or something. And then we were done with the barn. We had all the pens done.
Okay. What was your plan once that work was completed?
We were gonna go in and grab some lunch, and then after that, we're gonna go do the other barn.
So did you go straight to the house?
No,
Describe what happened next.
we went in to clean up, change our boots, and as we were doing that, me and Tristan were standing in front of the window at that time, and I go, well, that pet carrier over there, and he goes, yeah, I wonder what happened. That's what Tristan, and it was in a conversation. Well, what happened? We didn't know. Well, maybe she couldn't get it out of there. I don't remember which one of us said those words, but we were having a conversation of, why isn't it over there? And then Tristan said, you want me to go check it out? And I said, yeah, why don't you go over there and check it out? If she might not have been able to get it out of there.
Okay. So he went on his own?
Yeah, and then he went over to see what happened.
Okay. Well, he went over there to see
Whatever.
what went on with the pet carrier.
Yeah, if she couldn't get it out, he was going to grab it.
Okay, so coincidence, Michael?
That
He sent his son to the red shed after an hour had gone by after they had sent Amy over there. They don't see this pet carrier that Tristan said weighed 15 pounds. And Tristan also said his mother was on a weight restriction after surgery. She couldn't lift anything more than 10 pounds. I'm assuming Dad knew that. And
Well-
Dad still said, go over there and pick that up, Amy.
To me, this is probably the best piece of evidence for the defense. Because he would have to be so cold-blooded and so cold-hearted to send your son to find his murdered mother. If he actually did do that, then he obviously should have known where she was going to be. If he sent his son over there, I think the kind of person that would require, it doesn't seem in line with the person who we've seen and from what we've heard about so far during this trial. I mean, it seems out of character for him to send his son to find his murdered mother. And I just can't seem to believe that from what I've seen.
And I'm going to just play devil's advocate here. But this is also, Phyllis, the same father and mom who talked to Tristan about the cheating.
That's right.
Talked about a
Yeah.
lot of their adult business with the child.
Yeah, and I don't understand that at all. I thought this part of the testimony was really awkward, and I thought he really fumbled through it. He wasn't as smooth as he was with the other stuff. But I'm very disturbed by the fact that they told this kid about this affair. I mean, there was testimony about the kid didn't even want to get on the bus because he was afraid. Why are you
He knew a
telling him-
lot more than he should have as a kid.
Yeah, I have a 13-year-old. I would never discuss such matters with a 13-year-old.
But in that moment in describing, it would just really have to be so incredibly perfect for him to say in his mind, to plot, I'm going to tell Amy to go and get this pet carrier. I know she can't carry. And then after an hour, I'm going to tell my son to go check on her. It just seems like it's too much. It's hard to plan that out, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. I mean, again, I think, is it possible that it was, this whole, I guess, elaborate plan from,
Because he didn't know. Because again, it's not like Todd, planned to leave his son at some point to say, make this murder happen and execute his plan. His son is the one that said, I'm going to go get a drink of water.
Sure.
So a lot of this was out of Todd's hands, really. So to play it so perfectly is sort of hard for me to believe. I just don't see
And
it
if he's
happening.
going to plan a murder, is he going to do it with a corn rake?
Right.
I mean,
Or
he
that-
probably would have come up with something other method if it was planned.
Or say, hey, son, I'm going to go off and do, because again, he didn't know that his son was actually going to go get a drink of water. But he also said that it took seconds for his son to do that. So again, when did he have the opportunity to make this happen?
And again, I think it's an issue for the prosecution because, this is not something that happened the day before. This had been going on for a minute. And it seems like a very sort of heated, passionate killing. And that isn't sort of in line with the timeline of everything that's happened.
Right.
That should have happened the day after, the week after. I mean, too much time's gone by for him to all of a sudden have this snap killing in the heat of the moment. It doesn't seem in line with everything that we've seen.
Right.
And why did he call to apologize to the Jerry and his wife?
Exactly.
He called to say, I'm sorry for
That
the way
was
I
really
acted."
telling in terms of
Yeah.
his character
Right.
in that moment. Yeah, for sure. All right, you guys are going to be standing by. We've got to take a short break. Don't go anywhere because cross-examination of the defendant, Todd Mullis, is going to be starting up in just a few minutes. This is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.